you, Richard?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So Anne-Marie told you about what we're doing, and this is your testimonial against racism using your experiences. We want about 3 minutes in your voice.
What am I just talking, or are you interviewing me?
No, it's not an interview. You're just going to talk. You're just going to.
Oh, I thought you were interviewing me. Oh, okay.
I talked to Darren also, and I told him this wasn't TS. It's not an interview. It's just.
I'm sorry. This has been a very busy day. I've been doing a lot of things, so
okay. Well, I'll tell you. Let me ask you a question, and then just respond to the question. So we will make this an interview.
Okay.
In your experience growing up and as related to what's going on in this country today, if you had to convince someone not to be racist using your own voice and your own experiences, what would you say to that person?
Well, if I had to convince somebody not to be racist, I would just say you gotta learn about other people. You gotta put yourself in somebody else's shoes. A lot of folks were born with white privilege, and you can't blame them because they didn't choose which body to come into. They didn't know the history of their forefathers, and you can't put the sin of everybody's forefathers on them unless they continue the cycle. Then they get to claim it. In order not to be racist, you have to have empathy and sympathy. You've got to really be able to just to look at somebody and see what their day-to-day life is like. It annoys me when people say, yeah, well, all lives matter. Yeah, all lives do matter. Nobody's saying that. But in order to understand why people say Black lives matter, you can't say all lives matter because Black lives have never mattered, And so therefore, that's part of all lives. So things like that, I think you've got to be able to dissect and separate and be able to look and say, well, why are these people feeling this way? I mean, why do the Indians feel like their land was stolen and they feel abused and misrepresented and just misunderstood? And why do they feel that way? Because of what happened to them in the past. And it's also very annoying when people say, oh, just get over it. It's like, yeah, it's easy for you to say get over it because you've been privileged all your life. You had everything given to you, but you can't blame everything on the past. I get that, but you also can't erase the past. You can't say, well, I'm just, it never happened. I was just in a movie, Harriet, that really did well in the box office. And people said, oh, I don't want to see this because it's another slave movie. And I said, well, no, it's not. You need to see it because it's a movie about triumph and about one woman's determination. And just, it's a great story about, she's like a superhero. Harriet Tubman was a boss. She really did it. And what I wanted people to understand is that it was a different story. So you had to be able to appreciate that, and that you have to tell these stories. It's like, well, I don't know why they got to tell these stories. Because they'll forget. We must not forget these stories. Now, mind you, we need all kinds of stories in our industry. We need to make sure we have love stories, other stories, stories of, happiness and just a slice of life. But we must not stop telling these stories. When I did the premiere for Harriet at the Washington, at the National Black African American Museum, we did a big premiere, and it was a gala and everything there. It was this past November, and it was wonderful. And that morning, my husband and I had a tour because we were like the only people left in America who had never seen it. And it was wonderful. But the docent that took us on the tour shared with us that she argues quite regularly with some white people when she's touring them because they'll tell her parts of our history. They'll say, oh, that never happened. And she's like, no, this did happen. And I can't remember, forgive me, exactly the example she gave me of what they were denouncing. She said, but several times and through these tours, people would tell her, oh, that never happened. That's made up, that's fictional. And she's like, no, it's not. This happened. So if we stop telling these stories, in a minute, Harriet Tubman is going to be a mythological, character. She won't be real. So we have to tell these stories, and people have to understand, why are we here today? We have heard I Can't Breathe, and we're hearing it even more now as they are disclosing the other footage of other men that were kneeled on that we may not have seen in the nightly news that night. But we have heard I Can't Breathe. It's not the first time we've heard this, but it's the first time it's resonating. And why is that? Because everybody was part of this pandemic. Everybody was quiet. God put everybody at a place where they could finally hear and see. I was talking about this whole pandemic thing to friends, and I said, people were talking about New Year's Eve, 2020, I can see clearly now, perfect vision. And what we didn't know, God was like, you about to see some perfect vision. So we come in, COVID was the first catalyst. Then we come into the pandemic. And what God did is he calmed everybody down. He got everybody's attention through something else that was worldwide. It just wasn't us watching the news at Puerto Rico or this earthquake here or a hurricane that happened down south. It was everybody, all countries, all nations at the same exact time. I know my husband was like a cage bird. He went crazy, but even he had to calm down. God made everybody calm down. In doing that, then he was like, now I'm going to really get y'all some 2020 vision. You can receive something really clear now, something that's been going on for a while that, people watching the nightly news, oh my God, that's so terrible, about this one and that one and police run. Oh yeah, but they go on with their lives. It didn't affect them. But now this time it affected everybody. Mr. Floyd affected everybody and everybody saw it. So now people are putting themselves, that's why we're having this conversation, which is great. And these are difficult conversations we have to have. Now everybody's putting themselves in the place of African Americans, Black people in this country, and where we've been all this time, Hispanic people, brown people, where we've been all this time. And it's okay. I get your white privilege. I like I said before, I get that you didn't decide what body to be born into, but how are you using your white privilege now? It's one thing to get out and, put on your social media, Black Lives Matter and march, but what are you doing on a regular basis? As I asked some of my white friends, this is what you do. You own a company? Are there people of color that have been overlooked that should have been promoted a long time ago? Or are you bringing in people of color to help them run your company? What are you doing on a regular basis that is, I won't say denouncing your white privilege, because we're not going to denounce ourselves, but how are you using your white privilege to help other people? So we've got to be able just to put, ourselves in each other's shoes and really understand that, this is real and it's time. If some white folks think they tired of hearing Black Lives Matter and don't y'all think we tired of it? We tired of talking about it. We're tired of living it. We're tired of having the experience. I'm a child of the 60s. And I remember all too well the dogs on the nightly news. That was part of the entertainment. Governor Wallace, I remember his evil ass. I remember that as a kid, him calling, Black folks niggas and talking about how we should, basically not even exist. I remember that. I was young, but I remember that. I remember the water hoses on Black folks and just the dogs biting them. I remember my mother getting up and going to the March on Washington with rollers and a scarf on her head. I remember that my friends were part of the Freedom School, and the neighborhood, the girl across the street got killed by a bus because she ran off the Freedom bus and another bus hit her. I remember that. So this is just like everybody's tired of hearing about it. We tired of living it. I'm tired of remembering. It's hard for me to watch other slave movies or other movies about the civil rights because I cry, because those memories are indelibly imprinted in my mind. Those dogs and those water hoses, I can't forget it because I was a little girl and that's what was on my nightly news. So imagine what these poor kids at 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 3, 4, whatever ages that they can remember are seeing now. So it's like,
let me ask you a question. This is fantastic, and your passion is really, really. It's gonna change a lot of heads. But if Harriet Tubman were alive, if she could come back today, do you think she would think any progress was made?
Harriet, you can't deny that if Harriet came back, you can't deny that some progress has been made because she was trying to, free enslaved people at the time. And she knows what the world looked like, in the 1860s when she was trying to free enslaved people. So of course, even now when people ask that question all the time of me, yeah, things have changed. You can't say they have not, but have they changed enough? I think is the question. Has it equaled out? I think those are the questions. And the answer is no. Here it is, 2020, and we're still talking about the stuff that I saw as a little girl in Cleveland, Ohio in the 60s. We're still talking about the same stuff. You could pull Frederick Douglass, everybody was reading Frederick Douglass's letter, during the 4th of July. You could pull all these things. I heard something Shirley Chisholm some old speech of hers. If you could pull Dr. Martin Luther King's speech and it sounded like he wrote it yesterday, isn't that a problem? Isn't that a problem that Frederick Douglass' letter still rings true? You can read the works of Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston. You can read those works, and it sounds like they wrote them yesterday. It sounds like they were talking about the situation now. Isn't that a problem? Shouldn't there be a new narrative? Shouldn't there be something, a new enlightenment about what used to be? Isn't that what we should be saying instead of this is what it is? So, yeah.
Vanessa, do you think that when the cameras are turned off and people are woke in front of the cameras, what is the change that occurs in people when they're not on TV or they're not in front of a computer monitor? What's the difference in people?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know people, individually, but I think that's the test of a person. What is the difference? I don't profess to be the big protester. I'm not that. I'm not going to get in the streets and march. That's just not my thing, but I support, I advocate. I have conversations like these with people. I do it the way I do it. Everybody should do it the way they do it. I don't think one way is better than the other, as long as you're carrying the torch and the message in some form or fashion. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I can't say, what people are doing that are on the TV, if they're the same person off TV. I like to think that they are, I like to think that whatever their beliefs are, their beliefs 24/7, but I don't know that. But I think that it's just a little, and I've seen a lot of protests. I've seen a lot of discourse, but there does seem to be something slightly different about this timing. I must say that it feels a little different, and I just pray that it is, and that it doesn't go unnoticed, and everybody doesn't go back to status quo, 2 months from now, that we forget all of this ruckus that everybody was raising.
Different how?
It just feels different because, like I said, I think we really got people's attention. When I say we, the universe, God, Black folks, people of color, really got people's attention. People that were halfway listening, not listening, involved in their own lives, and really could care less. Because of the pandemic and because everybody was still and silent and bored and focused, when it hit, they actually saw. And because the tape was just so brutal, you would have to not have a heart like that officer in order not to see what the problem was. If you couldn't see a problem in that, then God help you. I don't know what to say about who you are as a person.
Right.
So I think the timing was different, and it made people just kind of have a different outlook on what they were seeing.
Vanessa, could you, looking at me as you are now, we'd like to know if you would say, now that you've heard my voice, I'm interested in what you have to say. Please leave please leave your thoughts on, or follow the link below to leave your voice.
Okay.
Racism.
Now that you've heard my voice and thoughts, you know what? I'm very interested in hearing what yours are. So please look at the link below, click, and say something, but say something good, smart, intelligent, and worthy of sharing.
Awesome. You hit it out of the park. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Is that enough?
Anne-Marie will be in touch, but we'll let you know how this is progressing, and I'll send a thank you note to Darren.
Okay, and you know what? You can just sign my name on a release. It's fine. I give you, you have me on tape saying that. You don't have to send me a release. Just print my name out. I give you permission. I give you permission to use this however you're going to use it. Are you going to try to turn this into like a TV thing, or just going to be online?
No, it's just going to be online. There's no monetization. We want to make it available to as many people.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So just go ahead and you can sign.
The best.
I give you permission to use it. Okay?
Thank you, Vanessa. It was great. Thanks so much again.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.